Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So after a couple of Sundays off, I'm happy to be here today, playing a deck that I just can't believe actually topped Volcanic True Draco. As you know, the quickest way to my heart is to jam a worthless, unplayable archetype into an actually good one, so when personal favorite Volcanics made it into a top 8, I knew I had to give it a look. So here's the list that topped. Now, seasoned Volcanic players will recognize immediately that something seems a little bit off, but don't worry. As always, I'll give you a little bit of history about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and as always, the card by card. So firstly, Volcanic is an archetype that has enjoyed different periods of closeness to playability. After the release of Blaze Accelerator Reload, the deck went from awful, unplayable GX noise to fringe strategy with enough to compete. Several fiery individuals, including close friend Socks, saw massive success playing the deck in a Stun Trap shell, while Vanity's Emptiness was at 3, with cards like Volcanic Rocket, Royal Firestorm Guards, and Pot of Duality comprising the rest of the deck. True Draco is a deck that needs no introduction whatsoever. It's a bunch of tribute summonable monsters that contribute continuous spells and traps. They've maintained a healthy second place in a Zodiac-dominated meta. Now, what this deck attempts to do is a couple things that are new territory for Volcanics. We're not playing Volcanic Shell, usually the most integral part of the Volcanic draw engine. Instead, we're all in on Blaze Accelerator Reload as a continuous trap we can safely tribute, then use as a Regeki from our graveyard a single time at instant speed. Because we need the ability to send the reloads to our graveyard as often as possible, we're playing 3 Masterpiece and 2 copies of Magic Planter as well. Additionally, the addition of a second engine means that we're going to miss out on some of the explosive linear play TD is known for, so the list is playing Stun Trap All-Stars like Lose One Turn. Hopefully this will make the list resemble a slower, grindier take on True Draco that makes more Masterpiece than usual, and not a bad amalgamation of 2 archetypes with a medium amount of synergy. So, with that, let's jump into the card by card. First, our True Draco guys. We have 3 copies of Masterpiece, 3 copies of Knuckles, and 2 copies of Ignis Heat. This is probably the most powerful suite we could be playing. After that are the minimum possible amount of Volcanics, 3 copies of Rocket, which searches a Blaze Accelerator on summon, 3 copies of Scattershot, which when sent to the graveyard deals 500 points of damage to your opponent and can send 2 more from deck or hand to the graveyard to Regeki. Finally, rounding out the monster lineup is 2 Ghost Ogres and 1 Maximum C. For spells, we're not playing anything too odd. 2 Disciples, which is, of course, the bad one, 3 copies of Dragonic Diagram, and 3 copies of Heritage. Since we're more stun-focused, I don't expect we're going to miss things like Terraforming. Finally, the 2 Magic Planters are the rest of our spells. For traps, we have 2 Blaze Accelerator Reload. We're only able to use 1 per game effectively anyway, 1 copy of Imperial Order, 1 Avarice to, I don't know, maybe shuffle our shots back, 2 copies of Lose One Turn, a fantastic card against most off-meta decks, and okay against Zoo as well, Skill Drain, the best continuous trap in the format, the Solemn Boys, and finally our True Draco Traps. 2 copies of Apocalypse and 3 copies of Return. In the extra, we're playing exactly what William Preising, I hope I'm saying this correctly, is a bunch of 5s that I imagine he went into maybe once in 300 rounds. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Vampires, a deck that's just a little bit too early. Come on, wait till Halloween to play this guy. We've opened pretty well. We have a copy of Volcanic Rocket, a Solemn Warning, and a Magic Planter. The Magic Planter is slow, but the Solemn Warning should be able to slow our opponent down enough so that we don't die this turn, and then we can Planter our own Blaze Accelerator Reload to get off to the races. We're going to do just that, normal summoning our Volcanic Rocket turn 1 since we are on the play, setting it and the Solemn Warning and passing it back. Our opponent is going to fire off this Dark World Dealings. They discard themselves a copy of Shadow Vampire, then get Zombie Master. They'll pass it back to us. We're going to start by drawing Lose One Turn, then use this Magic Planter on the Blaze Accelerator. We get a Masterpiece, so we'll go ahead and tribute him, destroy this set card with the Disciples effect. He'll chain it in order to get the Field Spell, and the Shadow Vampire will go to combat and walk over the meager vampires that he's set on his side of the field. Our opponent's going to start their next turn by activating Darkhold. Does not destroy Masterpiece because, of course, it was tributed using a spell. We'll destroy the set card at end step, then normal summon this Volcanic Rocket, attack in for a whole lot of damage, 2950 and 1900, and our opponent is going to concede after we destroy his field spell. Our second match is up against Infernoid, and our opponent is taking the limiting of grass so well they are not even playing 60 cards. This hand isn't particularly good. We have 2 copies of Lose One Turn. We contribute 1 for our Knuckle, and the other one can just sit there, I guess. But really, it showcases the stun power of this deck. We're going to start by setting one, Lose One Turn, tributing it for Dynamite Knuckle, setting another, and passing it back. Our opponent is going to start by normal summoning a copy of Decatron. We will Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, basically GO target number 1 there. They'll activate Into the Void, which triggers our Knuckle. We'll go ahead and get a return just in case. He'll go into Seismitos. We'll flip Lose One Turn. He'll chain to banish the one from our graveyard, hopefully to make our Masterpiece worse. He'll then use Void Banishment to get into the Void, set set 3, and pass. So I know at least one of those has got to be Void Feast. He'll flip it up now. I will go ahead and maxi. He'll get 2 Decatrons and a Sujeti. They all get negated, which is really, really good news for us. It means those Decatrons are out of commission forever. He's going to change Sujeti in order to get himself a copy of Ghost Ogre out of my graveyard. I'm going to get myself a copy of Apocalypse, set 2, and start attacking. Unfortunately, I don't have a very good way to win this game. Attacking with Knuckle isn't a very powerful game plan, but hopefully it'll be enough. After he activates another Void Vanishment, we'll just go ahead and use Knuckles' effect to get another copy of Return to our hand. He gets another Void Feast. I'm going to, once again, chain Knuckles for the 3rd return, and I think that's all the traps I have remaining in my deck. He's going to get a Homedic and an Antra. We go ahead and leave one of the Homedics alive, I believe, just because we have Return. It's not a big deal that he can destroy a monster. It seems like the most harmless thing he could do. He's going to start by monster gating. He goes into a Raiden. Then he's going to go ahead and use its effect to destroy our copy of Knuckles. Then we will immediately get hit by this Black Rose Dragon, which will have its effect negated. We'll reborn Knuckles at end of turn. Then we'll go ahead and switch that sucker to attack mode. We'll flip over an Apocalypse, destroying our other Apocalypse to destroy this copy of Black Rose, then attack for a whole lot of damage. Our opponent is going to draw, realize it does nothing, and concede. Our third match is up against Dark Magician, and we've opened very poorly. This is what it looks like when you draw into exclusively the Volcanic half of your deck. Effectively, we have 2 copies of Blaze Accelerator Reload, the only 2 in our deck, in our hand, but thankfully our opponent has bricked as well. 2 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcasters, 2 Eternal Soul, and an Illusion Magic are not particularly good. We're going to normal summon our Volcanic Rocket, get our 2nd copy of Blaze Accelerator Reload, set 4, and pass. Our opponent is going to draw into a Pot of Duality, but unfortunately not find any Dark Magicians off of it. He does get a Navigation in some eventual world where he does find a Dark Magician, and then he passes it back to us. We draw into a True Draco, so we'll sacrifice our copy of Blaze Accelerator Reload and get in for a fair amount of damage. I'm thinking one of these set cards is probably Drowning, because I know this deck plays it, but I don't see it here, so I figure maybe he's trying to tempo me out by taking some damage and, I don't know, pretending that it's a fog. He's going to use Pot of Duality to get a copy of Dark Magician. That's not good for me, because now the Magician's Navigation I know about is online. I'll change this Rocket to Defense Mode to play around a Drowning Mirror Force. He's going to use Navigation instead, get a Dark Magician and a Magician of Dark Illusion. Still good for me, because I can destroy them with my instant speed Regeki, but unfortunately he flips up the Eternal Soul. So I'll just send a copy of Volcanic Rocket because I can't destroy them by card effects. He's going to flip up this Secret Village. That triggers my Ignis's effect. I'll get myself a Disciples. He's going to use Apprentice Illusion Magician. We will Solemn Strike that sucker immediately. Then he will go into Ebon Illusion, baiting out the Solemn Strike, I suppose. We'll activate our copy of Blaze Accelerator Reload to send the Scatter Shot from hand, but he banishes Magician's Navigation, predicting that move, I suppose, and then attacks for 2,500 plus an additional 2,500 from the Dark Magician that he gets off of Eternal Soul. So things are looking pretty dire for us. We need a way to destroy a spell or trap, and we don't draw one, so we concede. So we're back with the deck. Since this is already a proven strategy, I'm going to talk in a little less vague terms than I usually do about what I liked and disliked about it. Honestly, despite the massive number of True Dracos we were playing, it often felt like we were praying to draw one off of the top of our deck. Since we're less reliant on the field spell, maybe it might make sense to play something like Majesty Maiden over Ignis Heat, since it's unlikely we're going to be making big Heritage plays or Disciples plays regardless. Additionally, a couple of copies of Waterfall of Dragon Souls would be more than welcome. I'm sure we could also probably find room for Pot of Dualities. The card is insane in normal True Draco and pretty good in Volcanics as well, and it seems like a pretty big oversight that it's not included here. I certainly liked the ability to play a more stun-oriented version of the deck, but I also wonder if the Magic Planter package is good enough. If we can consistently tribute Blaze Accelerator Reload, do we really need to be able to send it with Magic Planter? I'm of the opinion that a lot of the time, drawing 2 cards is actually less good than having a resolved True Draco on your side of the field. Finally, I am an enormous fan of the Pot of Avarice, and I almost want to bump it up to 2, maybe at the cost of a Disciples. So that's that. A little different video than normal, but I really wanted to try out this list. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/monobluetron every Monday and Thursday from 10 to midnight EST, links in the description. And if you want to see me play a certain deck or archetype on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comment section below, and I will do my best to try it out. Otherwise, I'll see you Tuesday.